The longest stretch in history that the federal minimum wage has stayed stagnant, but that could soon change. We'll have the impact of a $15 minimum wage and why the CBO says it could eliminate more than 1 million jobs in this country. And glory, speaking of this country, for the United States. Two-time World Cup champion midfielder for the U.S. women's national team, Julie Ertz, will join us on why the women continue to dominate on the global stage and why equal pay shouldn't even be a question. All that and more. This is Wi-Fi PM. Good afternoon, I'm Zack Guzman, and joining me on Wi-Fi PM today is Babe's Chief Taste Officer, Emily Radikowski, Sir Richard Branson, Sophia the Robot, Julie Ertz, Nina Engel, thank you so much.
Hi.
How are you, Zack Guzman?
Van Williamson, thank you so much for
Thank
taking the time.
you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
Honestly,
much.
It's been
Thank
so
you.
great to have you on.
My father, who is Mexican, which really doesn't have anything to do with this part of the story, I just mentioned it because the last time I did, Harvard accepted me.
When it walks like a Ponzi scheme, talks like a Ponzi scheme, and a prolific but unsourceable Reddit user swears to you it's not a Ponzi scheme, it's probably a Ponzi scheme. The Coin Blitz, baby, it's time. Let's go. Get your questions in. Ask them. We're talking coins. You know the drill. 2 minutes on the clock. We're gonna get to your questions. Give us all the coins you got. It's a stronger drink than I might have at noon. Definitely waking me up.
I have a pillow. The pillow is filled with everything bagel aroma, and then a cocktail that's a Manhattan.
Good God. It does smell like my bagel shop. It's the most confusing thing I've ever drinking. Drank. It's the third one. I don't remember English.
This is made with sourdough bread from the UK that we've imported.
My mom makes a great stuffing that she imports from Stouffer's. They call Scottsdale the most livable city, which makes sense if it's packed full of people who technically have never died. It sounds like science fiction, but it's not.
I want to see the future.
More than 1,000 people are trusting Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Scottsdale, Arizona to bring their frozen bodies and brains to the future.
Cryonics I like to think of as simply an extension of emergency medicine. Our view is that when today we're calling someone dead, the doctor says, "I declare you to be dead," it's a bit of an arbitrary line. In fact, they're in need of rescue, but we don't have the technology today to revive them.
Online company Nobilified lets users commission custom oil paintings of themselves or of friends. Customers can put their faces on famous paintings like American Gothic or the Mona Lisa. And joining us now is the founder of Nobilified, Chris Jensen. Chris, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
You also were nice enough to have your team commission, paint, one behind me right now of me.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this, to be fair. My team has seen this, but we have not actually revealed this.
I've gotten a sneak peek.
Allie is going to come on, producer extraordinaire, and reveal what this thing actually looks like. How accurate? Oh my God, sweet Lord. Wow. We wanted to do something a little bit different with this segment. So you've heard about being in the hot seat, of course, but this time around on the business of cannabis, we found it only fitting to put you guys in the blazing hot box. There it is. We made it graphic. You will reveal your question at the same time. No cheating. Gentlemen, let's begin. Well, we've been covering a lot of cannabis companies on Wi-Fi PM today, and there was one thing I couldn't help but notice when we were trying to book CEOs for our Business of Cannabis special a few months ago, if you did tune into that. As with all of our guest bookings, we try and incorporate different viewpoints, different backgrounds, and yes, different races. But that has proven more difficult than usual when it comes to cannabis companies, which prompted me to look at who is actually running these companies. And the results are somewhat staggering. Looking at the top 10 cannabis companies by market cap, the boards are actually less diverse than the overall Fortune 100 companies. At just about a 3% minority representation rate, the top cannabis companies trail the 20% average posted by the Fortune 100 by a factor of 6. There's also less female board representation than average as well. But considering the conversations this country is having around marijuana legalization, criminal justice reform, race, and particularly how revenues should be redirected to communities of color, it's an important point to realize. In fact, at a time when a black man in America is nearly 4 times as likely to get arrested for marijuana possession than a white man, according to an ACLU study, At a time where Hispanics constitute nearly 60% of all federally sentenced marijuana offenders, you can't help but wonder how those discussions might play out when out of the 65 cannabis board members we reviewed, only 2 were minorities, both black men. So joining us now for more on this is one of the men, board member at New Brunswick-based cannabis company Organigram, Dexter John. Dexter, thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. I was personally shocked.
An honor to be on the show and love being on your show, so thank you.
Well, and Zach, I like coming on your show.
This seems like a date gone very wrong, and I've had a few of them, Sophia, but I didn't find love on them. Okay, I've never been roasted by a robot before.
We're both very frugal,
Really?
to be honest. Yeah, for the most part.
Like McDonald's kind of frugal?
He's Chick-fil-A.
Nice. That's the perfect kind. That's my kind of frugal. We cannot talk a giant IPO like this in Beyond Meat without grilling up some Beyond Meat burgers as well, because I personally haven't tried these before. So we did this.
I can't believe you put on a chef's hat and a.
Well, again, you can't. This is the big question: is what are these bad boys going to taste like? I was surprised to see how many of my friends hadn't actually tried these bad boys.
I've tried
yet.
it. The burger's delicious. Just wait.
I'm Zach, a reporter for CNBC Make It covering side hustles. I've seen ordinary people like you and me turn side projects into million-dollar businesses. From a guy who made a fortune buying things at Walmart and selling them on Amazon, to a woman selling clothes out of her closet, to a guy flipping guitars, and a guy making Donald Trump poop bags. They made it look easy, which got my boss thinking.
Hey, Zach, why don't you do it?
And so I am.
And that's me saying goodbye from Los Angeles.